Final Score. Only on the Alaska Sports Channel. With Keaton Homer, Skip Hurst, and Heath Day. Stay informed with all local sports action. Final Score. Only on the Alaska Sports Channel.
Welcome to Final Score, Alaska's premier sports talk program. Skip Hurst, Heath Day, Keaton Homer, and Rick Whitbeck taking you through all of the best sports that Alaska has to offer. And as you've noticed, the sun hasn't come out in about a week, so that means it's football season, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. Absolutely. Football time in Alaska.
That rain.
Yeah, rain time means football here, and I'm really excited for this week. We've got our first game here on the Alaska Sports Channel, supposed to be Colony versus Service at the Alaska Football Stadium. Not quite sure if that's going to happen or not yet. But
well, the game's going to happen. We don't know where.
Right, exactly. So evidently there were some technical issues down at AFS, and they're putting in the new turf for this season. Looks like they cut a cable to the scoreboard, so we're trying to figure out if we're going to play there or not. But either way, we will have that game for you coming up on Friday. It is Friday, right?
It's
Friday.
It's Friday, 7 o'clock.
Here on the Alaska Sports Channel. But we're going to go ahead and look into the season coming up. We've got some a lot of huge changes in football here in Alaska, and we're going to go ahead and start with the large schools as we break down the conferences that we've got coming up this year. Large school, who is your biggest surprise here? What are you thinking of the large school teams this year?
Well, between the Cook Inlet and the Rail Belt conferences, a little bit of change there this year. One of those being that the Cook Inlet's going to have 5 teams going into the playoffs this year. That's a change. That means you got a majority of the teams actually making it into the playoffs. And then for the Rail Belt, they lost Juneau, who has been one of the top teams in that conference for years. So those are the two big changes that I really see. As far as surprises go, I think Eagle River has continually gotten better year after year, and they have a lot of athleticism that I think is going to give teams more trouble than they're expecting this year. And they're the team that I expect to be a surprise.
All right. What about you, Rick?
You know what? I'm going to go with my alma mater, the East High T-Birds. I mean, I know you guys, we were talking about that before we came on.
I'm really surprised that someone played. Watched them in the Jamboree this past Saturday. So.
You know, the Jamboree doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't. You're right.
I believe they have athletes, and they're just going to surprise some teams. I know they're not ranked in the top 5 right now.
Right.
That's pretty much a Service Southwest, depending on which teams you look at in what order, and
also
who's
depends
ranking them.
on which side of the town you're on.
True, but I think T-Bird up, and let's see what happens this year with the guys from the east side.
Right. What about you, Keaton? Who are you looking out for this year?
Bartlett Golden Bears.
Really?
They have a lot of youth coming back this season. They got second-year head coach Dan Esparza there. I think they're kind of getting things rolling. They have the quarterback coming back. He'll be a junior this year, Zyrell Jones. So I look for them to have a much improved season over their 0-8 season from a year ago. So I think they'll be a surprising team and possibly get 3-4 wins this season.
Right. Bartlett is actually a pretty big surprise. I'm actually surprised you said that. They do have a lot of experience coming back, and is youthful because last year they were all sophomores.
That's
so,
true.
I mean,
That's
very
true.
Nowhere to go but up. I mean,
exactly.
they have to be the biggest surprise.
That's a safe pick. I'm playing it safe to start.
Right. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm just going to spit it out. I'm going to say I'm looking at Service again this year.
That's a surprise.
Yeah, wow.
They're ranked number 1 in the.
It is a surprise. Yeah, it's a surprise because they lost their best player. They've lost a lot of players actually to graduation. They've got C.J. Toomer coming back as their quarterback, but as I've watched them at practice, we sat down with Coach Kern and we watched them. They're not the same team. And it's not the same coach. It's not the same vision. It's not. I mean, obviously, it's the same vision as I'm trying to get to state. I want to win a championship. But there's a lot of new players and some kids coming from out of state, even trying to come and be a part of the system. So that's what I'm looking at.
The good news for Service, though, is that the system is secure. I mean, it's still going to be a spread offense. It's still going to be an attack, in your face defense, and you have enough returning talent to where. Certainly there's a reason they're ranked number 1 in every preseason Alaska. I mean, whether it's Huddle, Max Preps, you name it, they're number 1.
Well, I don't think they're going to be running away with games. Not like they did or they have in some years past. No. They're not going to do south to everybody else. I'm just saying. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our mid schools. There's how do I put this? There's a lot of transition and things there too. I know Skyview this year, this is going to be their last year playing football.
Yep.
They're going to be shutting everything down and I believe merging with So High.
Yeah, Skyview's going to kind of split in half between Sohai and Kenai. So a lot of the kids are going to go to Kenai, a lot of the kids are going to go to Sohai. And from what I understand, most of the football team plans on going to Soldotna, obviously just because of the powerhouse that they've been. But 2 new teams this year in the new school or in the mid-school division. You have North Pole and you have Juneau. So those 2 teams are going to give Sohai a run for their money. A team that usually dominates that mid-school division. I'm looking at North Pole. They lose Moo Rogers at quarterback, but they still have Lance Wright, one of the better receivers. Now, can they get the ball to Lance Wright? That's the key, to get him to out in space and make plays. So if they can find ways to get Lance Wright, their playmaker, probably the best playmaker on that team, get him the football early and often in games, I look for North Pole to be a surprise in that mid-school division.
Does Juneau and North Pole move into the mid-sized schools? Does that really push Sohai out of contention?
I don't think it pushes them out of contention. You got to look again at the conferences. They're still in separate conferences. You have the Southeast Conference and the Northern Lights Conference, and so at some point, North Pole and Juneau will cancel each other. That's going to be the big thing for those 2 schools. That's going to be their main competition. Sitka, Thunder Mountain, and Ketchikan really don't bring a lot to the table in terms of competition. The same is true for Sohai with Homer and Houston, and Skyview, Kodiak. There's not a lot of competition for them. So the playoffs is going to be where it's at for those 3 teams, but it's going to be a race between North Pole, Juneau, and Sohai to see who comes out on top. And just from years past and the experience that I think they bring to the table, I think Juneau is by far the biggest dog in that fight.
I mean, Juneau led by Demetrius Campos. I mean, that team has dominated Southeast so much until Thunder Mountain came around. I mean, they were a perennial large school contender until Thunder Mountain came in. Kind of like what we saw with Chugiak and Eagle River a number of years ago, where a school comes in, all of a sudden your talent base is decreased or split up, and the teams kind of struggle. And so, getting down into a mid-schools division, certainly going to give Juneau an opportunity to try to dominate again.
Yep.
All right. Going to go ahead and jump into our small school section where we're looking at, there's some surprises in there too, as some of you may be able to see here on our screen. There's a new team here that I can't even say the word, so go ahead, Rick.
Vosnesenka.
Exactly.
It's a little school out the road from Homer. Keaton and I were talking about. Actually, we were all talking about. They played 8-man football last year in a non-affiliated conference with Point Hope and Nikiski had an 8-man team, but this year they're stepping up with the big boys. At least the small school big boys. Right. They're going to play 11-man football. The Cougars, they're gonna see. We're gonna get a helmet logo sometime down the road. Once we see what they look like.
Yeah. I'm gonna get my graphics team on that. We have to build one of those. So, not knowing anything about them, it's kind of hard to date. To be honest with you, this morning when we were prepping for the show, that's the first time I ever heard about them.
That's the first time. When I printed out the schedule, I had never seen it before either, and obviously that's probably a surprise to all of us. A brand new team to 11-man football. So it'll be interesting to see how they do this season, having to make that jump from 8-man to 11-man. They're
my team to be the biggest surprise in small schools. If Keaton can take an 0-8 team and make it his big surprise, then a first year school, biggest surprise, guaranteed, mark it down. That's my stone cold lock for the year.
There we go.
They might never win a game, but they're still a big surprise.
It's a surprise.
Adventurous guys around.
Yeah, right. Wow. Okay. Voice of wisdom. Heath.
I'm gonna go with Barrow. I really think Barrow. Their schedule sets up. They got to bye, then they play Vosnesenka, and then they turn around and play Nikiski and Eielson, which are the 2 teams that beat both teams that were in the state championship last year. Eielson came away with it. I look to see Nikiski there again this year, honestly, in the state championship, and so I think
they're solid.
Those 2 weeks for Barrow are going to be big, and then they've got kind of a slide into the playoffs where they're going to play Skyview, which is non-conference, and then Monroe, Seward, and Valdez. They should win those last 3. So I think they're going to gain momentum as the year goes on. How they handle those 2 weeks in the middle could kind of tip it one way or the other, but I think Barrow's got a chance to do something this year.
All right. The small school section has really been dominated by Nikiski, Eielson, those teams that we've watched in the past. So I really don't. I'm still as surprised with that. I can't even say the word. Big V.
Big V.
When we come back, we're going to go ahead and jump into our rapid fire questions. So stay tuned here with us. We'll be back with you on Final Score.
The biggest name in Christian music is coming to Anchorage. Mercy Me. Live for one show only, November 1st at the Anchorage Baptist Temple Auditorium. Alaska's Z 93.7 Everybody Station and KATB Life-Changing Radio present Dove Award-winning and Grammy-nominated Mercy Me. For ticket information, call 222-4826 or visit everybodystation.com.
The McDonald's Center in Eagle River is one of the best indoor sports and exhibit arenas in the state of Alaska. The MAC is one of only a handful of arenas in the state to feature an Olympic-size ice rink. The MAC Center even has programs to teach kids the basics of skating, and if you're looking to improve your hockey game, the MAC has programs to help improve your skills on the ice. Their new indoor turf is perfect for indoor soccer leagues. For more information about the McDonald's Center and times of their programs, check them out online at mcdonaldcenter.net. See you at the MAC.
Need a positive change in your life? Big dreams come true for Kenai Peninsula College students every day. And now, for the first time, KPC can offer students the opportunity to live on campus. KPC's new Residence Life program is not just about having a place to sleep and study. Live, learn, and make lifelong friends in KPC's new residence hall. Classes are filling faster every semester. Find your place at KPC.
And welcome back to Final Score, Alaska's premier sports talk program. We've already kind of taken a look at what the divisions are going to look like for high school football here in Alaska, and we're going to go ahead and jump into our rapid fire questions. I'm going to give these guys about 60 to 90 seconds to answer each one of these questions, but knowing them, we're going to go well beyond the 60 or 90 seconds. So I'm just going to prep everybody ahead of time.
Where's the shot clock, man?
Yeah, we need a buzzer there.
I didn't even waste the time putting the shot clock on there because I know it'll go bzzz. It'll be like one of those alarm clocks. Someone trying to hit snooze on it, don't go off.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sounds like a personal problem.
Yeah. Okay, first question. We have 3 divisions here in Alaska. Is there really a benefit? Now, when we look at this, we're on the 3rd year with the mid-school level division here in football. Is it beneficial to have these 3 divisions? Should we just have a large division and have everybody in the mid-small schools competing against each other, or what are your thoughts on that?
I honestly think we're better off with 2 divisions. You have the large school, you have the Anchorage areas, and then you got the Valley schools out there, and then you got the 2 schools up in Fairbanks. And you leave them all in one division. I think everybody else in the mid and small school divisions, if you were to pull those teams together like you had 4 years ago, I think you have great competition there. Especially, that would give you a lot more teams to put in a playoff format, and I think you would
Wait, so you mean the Cook Inlet Conference wouldn't have 5 teams going to the
Well, probably not. I don't know. I mean, you could change that up, but now that everybody's starting to break off and you're starting to get new schools in here, I mean, Eagle River coming on board a few years back, and now you have Vosnesenka coming in and joining the small schools. It seems like more and more schools are starting to open up. There's going to be a new school that opens up in the Valley here in a couple of years, so more and more schools are opening up, and I think as we start to get more and more saturated, we need to pull some stuff back together and not keep spreading it out and having 3 divisions like we have. I think that just waters down the competition across the board.
Is it beneficial to have these 3 divisions?
I think it depends on the perspective you're looking at it from.
Exactly.
If you're talking about it from a kid's perspective, yes, because it makes it more competitive. A team like Eielson, who won the state championship last year, the small school division, would have had no chance against a number of the 4A schools last year. And so when you talk about the classifications for the kids in the sense of the competition and having games to play, yes, it's better to have the 3 divisions. From a fan standpoint and from the competitive football, what are we producing and what does it mean to say your state championship? Well, right now our large school state champion is going to be one of 13 schools.
Right.
There's really not a whole lot of, there's not a huge sense of pride that's going to come with that versus if you combine these guys and you made it where there are only 2 divisions and you're talking about winning, out of 25. You double that number and all of a sudden you've got something that means something a little more. So it depends on the perspective. My personal opinion is somewhat in line with Keaton, believe it or not, in that we can't keep spreading it out.
Right.
At some point we need to start to bring it back together. I think Juneau and North Pole going down for the first couple of years, and this is the same thing that happens in the NCAA when a school moves from Division II up to Division I or goes from Division I down to Division I AA or something, they're going to dominate for a couple of years here. But I think it's going to balance. And what we've seen the last couple of years is these smaller schools are starting to step up in their game. We never would have talked about Nikiski if there not been a separation between the mid and small schools, because it would have been so high in Kenai the whole time. Now we're talking about schools like Nikiski and Eielson. So it is good for where it is. I don't think we can continue to expand it. Adding more schools in will deplete that talent pool, if you want to say that way, but it also makes for a better competition all the way around.
And I'm going to agree with these guys mostly, which I know is probably shocking. But I think if you're a kid and you're going after a state title and that's your goal, which is every kid's goal that plays, or at least we hope so from a competitive side, if you didn't have three divisions, what about those kids at Eielson? What about those kids at Juneau now this year? If Juneau is still in 4A, they basically, maybe they could compete, but they really were hurt with Thunder Mountain. Eielson really couldn't compete against the West Valleys and Lathrops and Wests and Services and people like that. So, having that mid-schools division is probably good for them. If you're a team like, let's just say Vosnesenka, and you had to play
the Big V.
Yeah.
and you had to play the Eielsons and the Juneaus, you might as well not even put on a helmet, because unless you're out there just for fun and to hang out with your buddies, all 13 kids in the school, then the chances of you beating a team like that, probably like UAA beating Michigan back in the day. But
Wait, that happened?
It did happen. But it's not going to happen very often. So if you're a child or a kid and trying to play in that conference, having more is better. If you're an administrator or a parent, who knows? But I think they can't go small. They can't go any bigger than what they've already got.
Well, I would say from an administrative standpoint, this is ideal.
Right.
Not for more than anything else, injury. You put a kid from Vosnesenka who's not really used to 11-man football and is not put in the time of a kid who's been playing at SoHi for 4 years and has lived and breathed football, and then you put them out on the field together and that kid runs a post pattern across the middle, he may not be getting up. Those are bigger issues that, again, not in the competition in terms of who's going to win state, but those are things that happen when you start to spread out and have different groups that are playing. That's why I say it is a benefit.
Right. I'm
60 seconds.
60 seconds for two times. I'm going to go ahead and say I really do think that we should split something up. I know we have mid schools. Well, let's take those mid schools that have been dominating for the longest time and let's push them up. Put them in a large and let everybody else
You have
go
to be
down.
different, don't you?
I'm just saying. So if SoHi is about to be merging with Skyview, and you're going to have more of these people to be able to pull from, they should move up into a large school and then let these others compete.
So how is the classification broken down right now? Just for our viewers who don't know, what determines whether you're a small school or a medium school?
That's a very good question. I'm going to defer to my friend.
Enrollment.
I told you.
Okay. Enrollment of 801 students. If you have 800 or more, you're a large school. Okay. So you're talking about.
Change that.
So you're talking about a school like Eagle River, for example, is one of those schools they don't have 900. They're over 800, but they don't have 900 students. East has 2,200.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. So if you combine Skyview and SoHi, you're probably going to push them over that 800 mark, so they would join. But I don't think you can turn around and say that for Kenai and Houston and Homer that they all got to jump up too.
Well, I'm not saying they have to. I'm just saying we might need to look at if they actually look at changing in the two divisions, they might have to look at what large and mid, what those prerequisites are.
If you're trying to win and you're a medium school and you have a choice of going small or large, where are you going to go?
Hey, you're only going to be as good as what you play.
Football is a completely unique,
different sport.
It is
unique
compared to every other
situation.
sport.
You wanna
In
dominate
basketball,
over
I would
everybody
give you a
else.
very different
Yes.
answer in basketball.
Absolutely, and I
But
would.
in
I
You
would
can take a
football-
small school and win a state championship. Go to Indiana; they do that mess
Hoosiers.
all the time.
But football brings a lot of other challenges with it. So one of those, like I said, is the safety issue.
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our next question. There's coaching changes happening this year and going to be happening next year as well. Service, they found success in playing football. 4 out of the past 5 seasons, they've been playing in the championship game for state with a new coach and many new faces on their teams. What do you think that's going to look like?
past 2 years, 2 new head coaches. Last year they had Numi Alalio. This year they got Kevin Kern coming on board. He's been the assistant coach at Service for a long, long time. So not to say he's brand new to the football, team at Service High School. So he's been there, and I'm sure he knows what he's doing. It'll be interesting to see how he can handle the head coaching role. It's a lot different. I know Numi Alalio, being a longtime assistant coach at Service High School, said it was a completely different world being the head coach, having to manage everything from the JV to the C team, getting stuff organized. And it'll be interesting to see how Kevin can handle that dynamic, because it's not just coaching a football team when you're the head coach of a high school football team in the state of Alaska.
Yeah, you have to deal with parents, booster groups, fundraising, everything, and administration.
So that can play a role in your psyche. I mean, as a head coach, and maybe not focusing completely on football like you can as an assistant coach when you don't have those other responsibilities. So it'll be interesting to see how Kevin Kern can handle that and keep the ball rolling at Service High School, because those guys at Service over the last 4, 5, 6 years, they've been a dominant team in the Cook Inlet Conference.
There's definitely a change in the mindset of a coach from the head coaching position to assistant coach, and like you said, there's all those other things that most coaches will tell you, these are distractions.
Right.
Like, I just get distracted with all these things. I just want to coach football. That being set aside, how will this affect Service on the field? I don't think Service is going to be in the state championship this year. I do think that Service will be in the playoffs. First round, depending on who they draw in terms of whether I think they'll win or lose that game. But I do expect to see Service in the playoff, especially with 5 teams from Cook Inlet Conference getting in. So I think they'll be in the playoffs. First round, who knows? That second round, I don't see them moving on past the semifinals into the state championship this year, like they have for the last 5 years.
Well,
go ahead, they're going to win it all.
No, I didn't say they're going to win it all. I said, so.
Wait, what are they ranked?
First.
Okay. Go ahead.
The last 3 years, how many teams that were ranked first in the preseason in one state? 0. So, I'm trying to break a trend here.
Okay, there you go.
But in all fairness, I do know Coach Kern. We've worked together in our real jobs for a decade or more, so I know Kevin better than probably everybody else here.
I've met the guy.
Did you just insinuate that this is not a real job?
Yeah, he did.
Man, this is volunteer time for me.
I know about this guy over here. Jeez. All right.
So, I would agree with you, Keaton, completely that, when you take over a head coaching job, you all of a sudden go, whoa, there was a lot more than when I was just a position coach or a coordinator. Kevin's uniquely qualified to take care of that because he multitasks in his job. I don't think that he understood, even after talking to Numi, that it was going to be this intense. But we're talking about, does the head coach keep you from achieving when you have a massive amount of talent returning? And, on paper, if you look at what he has, C.J. Toomer, best quarterback in the state. I'm just going to say it. I don't think that, with Connor and Amu leaving and, Moo leaving, I don't think there's anybody even close. But that's just me. Therefore, you look at what Service has on paper, I think they're going to be back in the state championship game. I'm not saying they're winning it. I'm saying they're back in the state championship game, and we'll see what happens.
On that note, we're going to be taking a quick break. We come back, we've got an interview with Coach Kern, so stay tuned for that right here on Final Score.
For over 30 years, Sweeney's has been your one-stop shop for all your favorite workwear. Boots, shoes, and outdoor wear. Extra Tough, Red Wing, Wolverine, King. Their friendly and knowledgeable staff will help you find exactly what you're looking for. You'll be impressed with their extensive collection. Jeans from Dickie, Levi, and Lee. Apparel from Pendleton, Helly Hansen, and Columbia. Located on the Kenai Spur Highway. Sweeney, the place you go for brands you know.
Have the appetite of a major leaguer? Go where the Alaskans go for their game. Buckets in Soldotna. Always a home run. Buckets serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. Stop on by to enjoy a juicy wild game burger, a bases-loaded baked potato, or halibut with flavor that knocks it out of the park. Whether you're watching the game on one of their many big screens or talking about how your team won or lost, Buckets is your home for all-star food and major league fun. Check out Buckets in Soldotna on the web at bucketsportsgrill.com.
Welcome back to Final Score, Alaska's premier sports talk show. This guy right next to me, Rick Whitbeck, newest member of our team, had a chance this past week to sit down with Coach Kern from Service and talk to him about taking over that role and what it's going to look like this year for Service High School.
Coach, certainly appreciate the time. You've been here at Service a while. Been through 4 out of 5 state championship games, 2 state championships when you were an assistant coach. Now you're the head guy. What's the secret to the Cougars' success?
Well, the biggest secret, Coach Newmy turned this program around. So he taught a lot of his coaches a lot of good stuff, and actually most of those coaches are still on staff.
That's great.
But other than that, I think consistency.
Okay.
I mean, we run our scheme from the C team level all the way up to the varsity level. I got coaches that are really hard workers, who really break down a lot of film and stuff.
Yeah.
So mostly consistency and hard work.
That's great to hear, because we're excited about this season and having you guys on the first game of the year. Do you guys feel any pressure as a coaching staff, and does the team, as a bunch of players, feel any pressure to keep winning and win immediately?
Well, I think, it's football. We feel that pressure every week.
Sure.
So, we kind of put last year. Right now we concentrate on one game at a time, and of course we want to continue to win. And so we just got to keep doing the stuff that we've done in the past to be successful.
Speaking of winning, it has to sting last year losing the state championship to South. Does that motivate you guys at all?
Well, again, last year was last year.
Okay.
We got a new year, new team. I'm sure deep down it definitely motivates some of my returning seniors.
Sure.
But you know what? These guys are working for their team this year. This is a new era for them. So they're again, we're right back to the one game at a time. So.
Speaking of one game at a time, we talked a little bit earlier. You guys are just going to be focused on the next opponent, next man up, and the next team up. That's going to be Colony. First game, the 16th. It's going to be our football game of the week on Alaska Sports Channel. What do you know about the Knights? What kind of scheme do they run? What should fans expect to see if they tune in? And what are you guys going to do to start out 1-0?
Well, Colony is a well-coached team. So we expect them to definitely be ready for it.
Sure.
They run a similar offense, a little bit of spread, but they have a little bit of pistol from what we've seen on tape and stuff like that. So our biggest thing is we're going to put pressure. Defensively, we're going to come hard. We're a team that lives and dies by the blitz, and so we're going to go after them as far as on defense. Offensively, I think we got a lot of speed. We got a great quarterback, and we just got to keep the tempo up.
Sure.
And wear them down.
Okay. Let's talk about it. Some of the Cougar playmakers. If you're brand new to the state of Alaska, don't really know anything about you guys, or just catching your first game ever at Service, who should they look for on your team? Who are the playmakers?
Offensively, I think we definitely have probably one of the best quarterbacks in the state of Alaska with CJ Toomer. He shows a great deal of leadership for our team. A lot of people don't realize it. Last year, CJ started basically 5 games before Amu even came into the picture as far as the quarterback position. We got an up-and-coming senior, Nashawn Fromm, who's definitely going to be probably one of our go-to guys as far as receiving line. And then we're moving some people around. We got Kakoa Fomai, who's going to move from offensive line to actually a tight end.
Okay. We talked about that. What about on defense? Who's
defensively?
Who are your big studs?
Yeah, defensively, we got Brandon Ishnuck coming back. He's an all-conference. This will be his 3rd year on varsity as far as nose guard.
Okay.
We have Iro. He's a big playmaker on the defensive side of the ball, and then Levi Hansen probably going to be our play caller at the Mike linebacker.
And I have to ask, you got one of the best nicknames I've ever heard on a team. You have a guy named Fluffy. Tell me about Fluffy.
Fluffy's one of our starting nose guards, and his name's AJ Poe, and he's an incredible kid, good kid, big boy.
Big?
Yeah,
you said he's big.
Boy.
Are we going to give his weight?
He chose his nickname. So,
okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Fluffy it is.
Yeah, he chose his nickname. So.
Well, Coach, appreciate the time. Good luck this season.
Yeah.
Appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you. And, we're looking forward to seeing the green and gold of Service High on the field the 16th on our first game at Alaska Sports Channel this year, and as you guys face off against Colony.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it also.
Sounds good. You got it.
Hope you enjoyed the interview with the new Service head coach, Kevin Kern, with Rick Whitbeck. That's going to do it for this edition of Final Score. Be sure you tune in tomorrow night. 3 episodes this whole week, so Tuesday night, be sure you tune back in when we have an interview with the Chugiak High head coach, Duncan Shackelford, as he gets ready to go into his last year. For Rick Whitbeck, Heath Day, Skip Hurst, I'm Keaton Homer. Until next time, good night.